Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get our fill. Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. Every lap a story, every driver's dream. On NFR, racing's the supreme. Checkered flags waving, champions arise. NFR brings the glory to our eyes. NFR, where the legends are born. Speeding past the limits, engines reborn. In the fast lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. NFR with the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You move to NFR, feel the speed. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Engines roar, lights go dim. Drama's high, hearts are race. Feel the heat, feel the pace. Speed and thrill, never slow. Champions rise, they all know. In the night, we come alive. SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Every turn, every fight. Pulses racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. SKR at 6. Fix. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. The best. Tires burn on the bends. Burn. know, cheering crowd, feel the sound. Woo-hoo. SKR, world renowned. Renowned! They're the best! NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beats. Engines roar, can't stay off seats. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, NFR, yeah. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din.
lightning, it's the dream. Speed and drama, every turn on NFR, the rubber burns. Feel the thrill of every bend, where the champions transcend. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Fernando calls the play on NFR every race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Now Fernando calls the play on NFR race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Deaf Queen, the top supporter scene, in the crowd where speed is keen. NFR, the place to be. Join the race, watch and see. Engines roar, the lights are bright. Sunday night, the crowd takes flight. Drama on the curse tonight. SKR feels so right. Speed and skill, hold on tight. Every turn, hearts ignite. Racers chase the checkered flag. No one's pulling any lag. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Oh! Wheels are spinning, adrenaline high. Twists and turns, we touch the sky. Competition fierce and true. Every point's a breakthrough. Wheels of spinning under stars. Tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Crowds cheering under stars, tension thick, no one's far. Destiny is in the driver's hands. Take the lead, take a stand. Just race, just drive, SKR alive. Push the limits, feel the vibe. Racers give it all they've got. Sunday night is burning hot. Oh! Just burning hot.
Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get off fill. Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. We're fast waving champions arise. NFR brings the glory to our eyes. NFR, where the legends are born. Speeding past the limits, engines reborn. In the fast lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. NFR with the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You will do NFR, feel the speed, the speed. You will do NFR. Sunday night, 6 p.m. Oh yeah, engines roar, lights go dim. Yeah, drama's high, hearts are race. Feel the heat, feel the pace. Oh yeah, speed and thrill, never slow. Zoom, zoom. Champions rise, they all know. In the night, we come alive. SKR, we will drive. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Dayton's night, under lights. Oh yeah, every turn, every fight. Pulses racing, here we go. SKR, steal the show. Rev it up, race it fast. Living dreams as we blast. On this night, we won't rest. SKR, we're the best. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. SKR at 6. Fix. SKR at 6. Feel the rush, feel the kicks. On the track, we survive. SKR, we thrive. Yeah, the best. Tires burn on the bends. Rivals clash, no amends. Oh no, cheering crowd, feel the sound. SKR, world renowned. Yeah, the best. NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beat. Engines roar, can't stay off seat. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victor's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, yeah. NFR, yeah. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victor's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin.
Engines roll, tracks on fire. Sunday night feels like a wire. Heart beating, Grover tire. Chasing ghosts, burning desire. SKR, the game begins. Metal beasts and metal sins. 6 p.m. the lights turn dim. Thriller speed, a deadly hymn. Race for time, no place for fear. Heroes born right here, right here, right here. Trauma spills on asphalt tears. Fast and fierce, they ride like gears. They ride like gears. Champion dreams, twisted fate. Risk it all or seal your fate. Seconds count, the stakes are great. Adrenaline can't hesitate. Night falls deep, the headlights glare. Specters fly without a care. Victory waits if you dare. SKR in midnight air. Race for time, no place for fear. Heroes born right here, right here, right here. Trauma spills on asphalt tears. Fast and fierce, they ride like gears. They ride the gears. They ride the gears. They ride the gears. They ride the gears. Turn on the screen, it's NFR. Feel the rush like a shooting star. The engines roar, the tires scream. Fast as lightning, it's the dream. Speed and drama, every turn on NFR. The rubber burns. Feel the thrill of every bend, where the champions transcend. Feel the power at NFR. Burning tracks, driving far. Where the races never end. NFR, only friend. play on NFR every race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, our only friend. Now Fernando calls the play on NFR at race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR, burning tracks, driving far, where the races never end. NFR, our only friend. Deaf Queen, the top supporter see in the crowd where speed is keen. NFR, the place to be. Join the race, watch and see.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome back to Sunday night at 6 p.m. SKR. We start afresh, Season 9, Round 1. And where are we? We're in Baku. Of course, tomorrow night for SAFRL, we're going to be in Baku again. And then on Tuesday night for League versus League, you'll never guess where we'll be. We'll be in Baku once again. I think by the time the drivers get to Tuesday night, they should be well rehearsed. Seem to have a driver name missing from our screen for some reason. It's the Red Bull in the midfield, no name next to the Red Bull icon, so I'm not going to know who we're commentating on. Already a busy circuit. Of course, a relatively long circuit around here. Approximately 6 kilometers. Just a little shorter than Jeddah. You're going to get 18 minutes, not anymore. You're going to get 16 minutes of qualifying, followed by what I think is a 26 lap race. It's a challenging race. It's also a challenging qualifying. In qualifying, the guys get that much closer to the wall. They're pushing that much harder. And there we go. Speaking of it, we come across a RB facing the wrong direction. It's going to be also an important part of this track on the qualifying laps, that castle section. How much are you willing to commit? Of course, a very tricky part of the race circuit. Very technical, but you need to be able to throw it in. You need to have the bravery to get through there quickly. Otherwise your lap time is simply not going to be enough. No lap times to speak of just yet, but lots of drivers on out laps. A few of them already on quick laps. One of those drivers, Big T. We ride now with the McLaren. Well, I guess we're going to have to call him by his position. So at the moment we'll call him P9. If anybody in the comment section knows who that driver is supposed to be, let me know. This is Vortex, going very slowly on the outside, just letting drivers through. Rhino going slowly. This is its Ferrari. Back for yet another season of SKR. Yet another go. It's going to be a slightly longer season this time round. Usually we run the 12 rounds. It's going to be 14 rounds, so that we can end this calendar at the same time as the F1 calendar ends. And depending on the start time of that race, what time does the Yas Marina Grand Prix start? Either we're having this race before that or after that, and I was not going to mention the Charles Leclerc incident of a few years ago, but Chums brings it back to our memory. Chums straight into the wall at the castle section, not able to make the corner. Such a difficult corner, I mentioned it earlier. You need to be so brave, you need to throw it in there as quickly as you can, but at the same time you need to miss all of the barriers along the way. It's also an uphill, which makes it a little awkward to see where you're going. First lap times now coming in, the quickest of which is a 38.5. That goes the way of Wheeze. That's one of the two Aston Martins. Of course, the teams have all been switched around. Big T getting close, even on his in lap, to those walls in the castle section. Of course, you need to get that banker lap in. So important to get the banker lap in before you go for the ultimate push. Of course, you go for the ultimate push before you've got the banker lap, you could find yourself in the castle section or anywhere else on this fantastic circuit against the wall. No lap time means you're going to be starting from the back of a very busy field. 19 drivers in the field, 2 of them have retired without setting lap times. We have 1 driver without a name. That's this driver over here. Do we have a number on that car? Oh, we can't see. So no idea who that is. If you're in the comment section, if you're one of the drivers sitting in the pits, let me know. I think that was an RB. That was Divan. Divan just hitting the back on his way out. Luckily for him. Lots of damage, but he's going to be able to get that back to the pits. Have another run. Of course, Chums didn't get that second opportunity. His damage was enough to eliminate him from the session, meaning he will start from the rear of the field. This is Top Gun in the other Red Bull. One of the Williams drivers, Andre, his teammate just up the road from him at the moment. Those first lap times, Andre 41.4, Skull a 40.7. Bit of a gap between the Williams for now, but keep in mind that's just their first run. Some of the drivers will be pushing on that first run because they'll need the practice. Other drivers, they'll be driving within themselves just a little bit. Don't see as much sandbagging as we see on a Thursday night. Of course, over at DRS they run the full quali session, and the guys tend not to show their pace in Q1, even up to Q2. You only see the real deal in Q3, but with it being a short quali session on a Sunday, means the guys don't have too much time to sandbag. Maybe on that first run they'll take it easy, but after that, it's time to get going. It's Andre and Skull supported by Death Queen in the comment section. Of course, those two drivers, if I'm not mistaken, were in the Aston Martins last season. Either they left Aston Martin nicely or they were both fired. Well, Williams has picked them up. Not often you see two teammates leave a team and show up together in the other team. This is one of the kick Selbers. This is Ronald, formerly known as Boinkies, the man who gets few penalties. Isn't always the quickest in the race, isn't always the quickest in qualifying, but he's consistent and he's clean, and often it leads to him catapulting himself up the order, and by the end of the race you're wondering where exactly he came from. But he was there the whole time, just quietly, not drawing too much attention to himself, just doing exactly what he needs to do. That's why me as a commentator, I miss him on track. Usually I see him towards the end of the race, and I wonder what I've missed. I have a caution in Sector 2. Of course, that'll just be a car going slowly or giving space to another driver. Very quick race circuit this, so slow down at all, it's going to be considered slow driving. It's going to trigger that caution. Sector 2 again. This is Vortex going slowly in the McLaren. Of course, the McLaren team winning this afternoon in Baku, and as happy as they were for the Piastri win, I think they can all be happy that Lando got all the way up into P4. Looked like a very unlikely result at the start of the race. It shows you how things can flip here in Baku. Of course, lots of drivers in the field, very fast race circuit, not a lot of runoff areas. Safety cars may come into play. If we had any strange weather dynamics, I'm sure one of the drivers would have mentioned it in the comment section already, so I think it's safe to say we'll be having dry weather throughout, unless we've missed something completely. Currently we have Wheeze in P1, it's 38.4, then very close 38.5 for Big T, so just a tenth between the top two drivers. Then there's a bit of a drop to Spike, say 39.2, and then even more of a drop to Levy, 39.8. So some big gaps there between 3, 4, and even 5. Top two very close together, the rest of the field looking for improvements. Let's turn on some telemetry. Of course, no surprise in the tires. Everybody's going to be on the soft compound. That's the quickest compound available. Question is, how long does this compound last in the race? Don't think it's going to last very long. It's a long lap. Don't think we're going to see anybody starting the race on the soft compound, unless they're starting at the back and looking to make up quick positions. If you are starting from the back, the best bet will be the hard compound. I'd see the majority of the field starting on the medium. Of course, if you anticipate an early safety car, maybe the soft isn't the worst idea. Problem is, if that safety car doesn't come out, you're going to find yourself pitting very early on in the race when the field is still very close together. Of course, on this track, depending on the pace, we can see really long DRS trains. Really overpowered DRS zone around this circuit. Down the straight, almost 2 kilometers. It's Faree returns to the pits. Skull out on track. Man with no name has retired from the session. He was in P8 with a 140.5. Hopefully in the race that name will appear on our screens and we'll know who that is. Or if Pando or Skull, even Ronald. I know those drivers are hearing the stream in the background. Let me know if you know who that Red Bull driver is, or if it's also blank on your screens. We're still the quickest driver. Big T in P2, Spikes P3. It's a 39.2. He's not close enough at the moment, and he's in the pits. Levy's out on track, but that's an outlap. We're looking for someone on a quick lap. This is Rhino. Battery seems to be depleted. I think that is an in-lap. There are all the drivers. Lots of drivers in the pits now. Final preparations for that final lap. Pantry Star, there we go. Pantry Star is the blank name. Thank you for that. I was going to call him the driver of no name. We'll go with Pantry Star. We're still the quickest car. It's a 38.4. Big T 38.5, but he remains in the pits with just over 3 minutes remaining. I think we will still see a response from the McLaren. He's just leaving it late. Maybe looking to get a tow. Of course, the thing with this circuit is if you do catch traffic at the right time, you're going to get an amazing tow down that straight. Get a tow down that straight can give you anything between 0.3 and half a second down the straight. That could do wonders for your qualifying lap. On the other hand, if you catch that traffic on the wrong part of the circuit, lap impeded, game over. Skull in the pits, not a lot of time to go. See how many of these drivers are going to get out on track and have a late run. Top Gun returns to the pits. Don't know if he's going to have enough time to get back out there. That would have been his final run. Good enough for P9. Still lots of drivers behind him that can improve. We've got an RB in the walls. I think that is Divan. Saw him having a rough up in the castle section earlier on. He got away with that. He didn't get away with this one, so he's going to finish a best of P13 if nobody behind him is able to improve. Speaking of improvements, quickest man is out on track. As you can see, lots of traffic out there. Just not much you can do. Of course, if the driver in front is on an outlap or on an in-lap, you can trust he'll get out of your way. But if that driver's on a quick lap of his own, there's no reason why he should. So, lands up, everybody gets impeded on that final lap. Hopefully these drivers will make sure they have enough space. You don't want too much space. You want to make use of the slipstream down the straight. You don't want to get too close. You can run into somebody in the tricky bit. Big T being good enough for P2, just that 1/10 of a second off the best lap time. He's on an outlap. Going to be one of the last drivers over the line. We'll be hoping to leave it for a late spectacular finish. Of course, if you guys are enjoying this, remember tomorrow night coming to this very same circuit for SAFRL, and then on Tuesday we're doing it again. I assure you, by the time we get to Tuesday, guys representing SKR and the guys representing SAFRL, they will be well rehearsed. Of course, over on JPR on a Friday night, they also did Baku last week Friday. I think 3 of the 4 teams will be very recently well rehearsed in race distance around this circuit. We's still the quickest man. That's the Aston Martin. And as you can see, is he going to be able to find improvements? There's cars all around him. Big T got a little bit more space to work with. You can see how wide they go, how close they get to the barriers. That's what you need to do if you want to be at the top of the timesheets. You need to be willing to find every single centimeter on offer. Occasionally you might even give it a tap. Hopefully it's a very soft tap. Anything more than that, either your lap time will be destroyed, best case scenario, worst case scenario, the car will be destroyed. Of course, over on that JPR race, I think there were either 3 or 4 safety cars. Over on the feature race, hopefully that is not evidence of what we can expect tonight. We do get a safety car, hopefully it's just the one. But where it falls in the race will determine who it helps. Of course, if lots of drivers get penalties and that safety car comes at the end, it's going to hurt a lot of people. Wees returns to the pits. I think that traffic, it was all about that traffic. He just wasn't able to improve. Big T did improve. Wees was not able to defend that lap. I think it just came down to traffic. There were too many cars around him. Wasn't able to properly prepare his lap. Wasn't able to find an improvement. And Big T in the McLaren is going to lead the way into turn 1. We had a McLaren winning not so long ago, a few hours ago. That McLaren started the race in P2, went on to win. Big T gone one position better. Going to start this race from P1. Of course, in qualifying, let's quickly get through these results because there's 19 names in the field. Big T, he's going to lead the field into turn 1. He's going to be followed by Wees, then Spikes in P3, Levy P4, followed by Skull, Andre, It's Free, Mr. Rem, Pantry Star, Top Gun, Harsh Cartoon, Big Rhino, Gotzi, Divan, I believe that's Harsquirter, Ronald, Vortex, Gary, and Chums. And I think I just went back to calling him Gotzi. Yes, I know the name is Gotozi, but it's just going to have to go between the two. Of course, just a short quali session. So we are done with qualifying. This is the race. Drivers will be sitting to the left of our screens on the grid. They will be doing final preparations, things like what tyre they're going to start on, how far they want to go into this race on that first stint of tyres. Of course, do you anticipate safety cars? Do you underfuel in anticipation of those safety cars? Of course, if they don't come out, you're going to find yourself in trouble at the end. Could come down to strategy. Don't be surprised if you see mistakes, if you see incidents. Saw a very violent crash in Formula 2 at the start of the Baku race earlier on today. It's just that it's a really fast race circuit. It's very wide in places, but it can also get very narrow in others. And sometimes just find drivers being a little bit too brave, find themselves in those narrow bits all of a sudden, and there's just nowhere for these big cars to go. Of course, the castle section is probably a sequence of corners I can guarantee you we won't see a pass. If we do, what an impressive one it's going to have to be. we should get the dual green lights, which we do. Drivers will get one more opportunity to drive around this circuit. They're going to get a chance to feel the car with a full fuel tank. Of course, cars would have been feeling a lot better than this in qualifying. Almost no fuel in the tank. Best set of tyres available. Now in qualifying, that car's going to feel somewhat different. Leave Ronald there complaining about his setup, something not feeling quite right on the setup. That's the man down in P16. As I mentioned in qualifying, watch the name, watch the second Sauber. He does come through the field, and this is a circuit where I think we will be seeing penalties, and if he can keep that penalties column clean as he usually does, could still get himself a great result here. For now, there's no racing. Everyone driving around line astern, trying to get some tire temperature, brake temperature. Of course, it's very difficult. I believe a lot of drivers have complained about getting that tire temperature into the car on the formation lap. Some complaining no matter what they do doesn't really make a difference, and by the time you get to turn 1, the tires are not where they should be. Of course, if you make any sort of contact on the formation lap, you'll find yourself sitting on the grid waiting for everybody else to arrive. Then you do really get to turn 1 with ice cold tires. Of course, the first turn here, very important, but don't forget turn 2, turn 3, all 90-degree left-handers. The start of the track here, and with a busy field like this, if we don't have action into turn 1, we might still have action into turn 2 or 3. Hopefully everybody's able to keep it straight, keep it line astern at least for the first lap, let things settle down. You can see 2 drivers with a DSQ there. That's just because they have not been able to park their car correctly. They will be pushed back slightly in their pit box. Is that the 2 Red Bulls? It is the 2 Red Bulls. So both Red Bulls experiencing the same issue. Pantry Star's name has not reappeared, so we'll just have to keep that in mind. Red lights, they will go off, and shortly we will get a better camera angle. When will it come? There we go, into turn 1. McLaren leads the way. Nothing from Wheeze in the form of attack. Looking further down the field, there is a bit of a mess there. We're looking at a kick Sauber going left and right. I think that is Ronald. He started further up in P15, now down to 18. So I think there's already, there you can see there's already damage to that Sauber. I believe there's damage to the second Sauber as well. So that's going to be a difficult situation. Looks like there's Sauber, the damage on the Sauber of Gutozzi and Ronald, both those cars running at the rear of the field, which means one of those cars, well, the car at the back, would have to double stack and wait for his teammate to put on a wing. That'll be a very, very lengthy pit stop to whoever that second kick Sauber is. I think that is Ronald at the moment. Well, if I wasn't 100% sure of the damage, now I am 100% sure of the damage. Lots of damage on Ronald's front wing. I'll try and get a view of his teammate. In fact, his teammate does have his end plates. So we saw damage on Gutozzi's car, but he does have his end plates. That wing is intact. So it's just the one Sauber in trouble. And he's in a lots of trouble. He's going to be falling back quickly. It's a very quick race circuit. You don't think you need that much aero. There are some very quick sweeping corners here. Try and take those corners without a front wing, you're going to find yourself in the wall, probably triggering a safety car. So just going to want to limp, get that car back to the pits, and hope for the race to do something magic to bring you back into it. Big T still at the front, Wheeze in P2, those are the same positions they started in. Then we've got Levy in P3, Spikes P4, Skull P5, then it's Free, Andre P7, Mr. Rem. We've got our first retirement, it's Vortex. Virtual safety car for now. That's all it will be, of course. I say for now because we have seen in the past we get a virtual safety car indicator when it's a full safety car, but I don't see any evidence of a safety car coming out of the pits, so it should just be a virtual for that DNF, fortunately for all the drivers, because if we do get a safety car now, it's probably the most useless safety car you can get. This will help Ronald a little bit if he can get back to the pits and these guys are still driving around slowly. Won't lose as much time. He has fixed that wing. He is back out there. Unfortunately for him, it's a virtual. It's not a full safety car. If it was a full safety car, he'd be able to speed up, catch up to the back of that queue. Eliminate the handicap that penalty has given him. Unfortunately, under the virtual, he's just going to have to stay put, drive within a delta. That gap to the car in front will stay relatively the same. And the virtual safety car has come to an end, and we're back underway. We will have DRS shortly. Of course, DRS should become available on lap 2. Then we got that virtual. That takes DRS away. DRS will come into play, and with how quick these drivers are, how long these straights are. Here we go, Wheeze with DRS open. Does he make a move? Not yet. Stays behind, the gap just 0.2 of a second. It's one left-hander, then another left-hander, then he should be getting it again, does he? Opens up DRS, has another go, got really close, got 0.2 there into turn 1. Actually lost a bit of time this time round. 0.4 of a second, no move to be made, just sits behind the McLaren for now. Is he not able to find a way past, or is he being patient? That is something only the Aston Martin driver will know. Spikes under pressure in P3, he's got a whole lot of cars behind him. DRS train all the way down to P9, chasing that Ferrari. That DRS train all the way down to P9, that's Pantry Star in P9. A lot of quick drivers behind Spikes. He's a quick driver himself, but he'll be under lots of pressure. If he looks in his mirrors, there's not going to be one car there, there's going to be several. Probably won't even be able to see the tarmac. Of course, problem with being at the front of one of these DRS trains is you defend and you want to stay in front and you use your battery. Everybody else has that same battery, but they also have DRS. So if you don't use your battery correctly, let it get too low, find yourself on one of those straights, you've got absolutely nothing to defend yourself with. You've got to manage it perfectly, especially on a racetrack where DRS is so important. It's important at a lot of race circuits, but on a race circuit with a 2 kilometer straight, it hits a little different. Big T still out front, the gap growing now, 1.9 seconds, so Wheeze is no longer within DRS. Levy has gotten past Spikes, so Spikes loses the podium spot for now. Sure, Levy will see that gap out front, 2 seconds. If he wants to do something about Big T, he's going to have to get past the Aston Martin relatively quickly. Doesn't want to spend too much time behind the Aston Martin, because at the moment Big T definitely has the pace on that Aston Martin. Every lap you spend behind Wheeze at this point in the race, Big T will be thanking you for, because he'll be pulling off into the distance. This is one of the two Williams. Of course, those two started alongside each other on the grid. Skull has maintained his position. He's in P5, doing a good job. The other Williams down in P14, not having the race start he would have been looking for. Just bring up your... Well, he has made a pit stop, so I'm going to presume he got damage at some point in the race. Can't see why he would have made a pit stop this early. Of course, these tyres could go to the end. Saw evidence of that on Friday night. They're just not going to feel great. Sandro will be hoping for a safety car or something of the sort. There's a possibility he can take these hards to the end, but he won't be wanting to. The last few laps will probably feel terrible. If he can take these tyres late into the race and then a safety car comes out to save him, the race could change very quickly. Big T from Wheeze, that order hasn't changed. The only thing that has is the gap between them. They were very close together not so long ago. In fact, Wheeze was challenging into turn 1 with just a 0.2 of a second gap. Now all of a sudden, gap is 3.1 seconds, and then Levy in P3 is a further 2 seconds back. So 5 seconds covering the top 3 drivers. Very big gap to have on lap 5 of the race. Spikes is in P4. Hasn't exactly let go of the back of Levy just yet. Levy trying to open up 0.7 of a second. So crucial you get outside of that 1 second mark. Give yourself a big advantage as soon as that driver isn't able to get a boost twice a lap. As I've mentioned, that boost on this circuit means more than any other circuit. Maybe Saudi Arabia, Las Vegas. Those are the circuits built for DRS. We're riding with It's Free. He's one of the cars in this exciting battle. Of course, Levy leads the battle, then it Spikes. It's Free is the third car in that battle. Then this is Skull. Now, because it's such a quick race circuit, 0.6 of a second looks a very far way away, but you'll see as soon as they get to the corner, that's not the case. All you need is some slipstream, some DRS, some battery. Use the combination. That 0.6 will go absolutely, it will disappear down a straight. Saw earlier on today, Oscar Piastri pulled a overtake on Charles Leclerc into turn 1. At the beginning of that DRS zone, Oscar Piastri was 6.8. Was that rather, let's say 0.6 of a second away from Leclerc. He was able to close the gap. Was a little bit of a dive bomb. He was able to take the lead, get the car stopped, didn't run wide, so it is possible. Say if you can get within that DRS mark on the main straight, 0.5 or anything lower, there's not much that driver in front of you is going to be able to do. This is Levy, then Spikes. Pantry Star, he's gone down to P17. Somehow missed that, but we've lost Wheeze. Wheeze has come in for a stop. Did he have damage? If he did, we didn't see it, or he just came in for a stop because he's... Surely not. Surely that was some sort of damage that forced him into the pits. But stop this early in the race doesn't make too much sense. Big T leads the way. Spikes now in P2, but the gap there at the front, 5 seconds. And even if Spikes wanted to get on with it and catch Big T, there's just so much happening in his mirrors. He's under a lot of pressure until he's able to break that train. Pressure will continue. Ride with the Williams, just gets a puff of smoke in his face into the entry of the corner, and then again lots of lockups. Stay on board with the Williams for a minute, but you have a look at this circuit from the driver's perspective. Got sections like this, lots of speed, and then all of a sudden you've got sections like this. You think you're in Monaco, especially when you turn into here. It's left, left, right, up the hill. You almost can't see the apex of the corner if you're in cockpit camera, and you just got to throw that car in there with faith and hope you hit all the right areas. Hit all the wrong areas, and that's going to be the end of things in a very spectacular way. Skull Almost looked like he was lining up the Alpine there for a second. I don't think Levy got the best traction out of that corner. That just allowed Skull to come right back at him. No move from him just yet. That's right on board with the Williams. That's just 0.2 of a second, the gap. It's going to open up DRS. He's already gaining. And that's just with slipstream. Have a look back. He doesn't have DRS. Skull did not have DRS. I'm not sure why he did not have DRS. No DRS there for the Williams driver. Could he be able to get past the Alpine pretty easily, given the gap at the start of that DRS activation. Wee sets the fastest lap of the race at 141.1. That's because he's a quick driver on a fresh set of tyres. You wouldn't know it, because he's no longer at the top of the field, down in P10, currently just for 1 point. Big T leads the way. Spikes doing all he can, but that gap continues to grow. The last time we checked on it, it was 5 seconds. It's now 5.7 into the castle section once more. Each time you go into that castle section, you hold your breath. Each time you make it out, it's a long exhale. Of course, we've seen some of the best drivers in the world crash in that section. Of course, the most famous of which was Charles Leclerc. That probably had to do more with his radio message after the crash. If I remember correctly, the radio message was, "I am stupid. I am stupid." Very clear and to the point. It's Ferrari. Gets his way past Spikes with the help of DRS down the straight, heads off into turn 1. Now the Ferrari may have the opportunity to come back at him, because the Ferrari is going to get DRS this time round. It's all about making sure you get the perfect traction off that corner. This DRS zone obviously not as long as the other one, so you've got to be really close on the exit of the corner just before you open up DRS to get the advantage. If you're a little bit too far back, you've got no hope of getting in there before turn 3. I think by the time Tuesday night comes, I'm going to be pretty good at commentating on this circuit. Just see Big T exiting the castle section. Once more in the lead of the race, 6.5 seconds, so almost 7/10 a lap at the moment. Taking out of the man in P2, it's Ferrari. Hasn't quite shaken off Spikes just yet, but he's on the edge of it. 9/10 of a second is the gap between those two. If he's able to go over a second, he'll break DRS. Can start putting more concentration into catching the leader, not worrying so much about the driver behind on each and every lap. Levy still in P4. Of course, he was on the podium at a stage. Skull, he's been solid in P5. He's been there. Started in P5, still in P5. Just having a consistent race. 10 of the 26 laps, only one driver with a penalty. Just get confirmation of what penalty that is. There's a 3-second penalty. How do we get the tyres up on the screen? There we go, tyres. Okay, so a lot of the field on the medium compound. Also a handful of drivers going on the hard. So some support for Spikes in the comment section. The driver currently in P3. Doing everything he can to stay with its Ferrari. He knows if that gap goes up above a second, he's going to have a really difficult time staying with the Aston Martin. Needs to use this advantage while he has it. Needs to maximize on it, get as close to that Aston Martin as he can. And then down that 2-kilometer straight, you use the slipstream to get even closer. And by the time you open DRS, There's absolutely nothing the Aston Martin can do. Unfortunately for him, that gap a little bit too big at the moment, 8/10 of a second. You want it to be somewhere in the range of half a second, able to enable you to get that overtake. There's lots of viewers now watching the race. Welcome to Sunday Nights with SKR on the NFR channel. Of course, you've joined us lap 11 of 26 if you've just joined us. Big T, man who did not start on pole, or did he? I'm not sure. Let's get confirmation. Yes, he did. He started on pole. He's led the race for the entirety of the race. Of course, had a little bit of a hard time in the beginning of the race. We challenged him once or twice. But then after that, after he was able to drop off Wheeze, never looked back. He's been disappearing into the distance ever since, at a rate of 5 to 7/10 a lap. That gap now 6.7 seconds back to its Ferrari. He has not been successful in shaking off the Ferrari. Spike's just 7/10 down the road. They have dropped off Lebby. Lebby's in P4, but 5.5 seconds adrift from that battle ahead of him. And he's got a long DRS train behind him. Skull in P5. At the moment, looks like he's got the pace on the Alpine. Looks like the overtake is possible. Just hasn't made the overtake just yet. Playing it safe, staying behind the Alpine, looking for the perfect opportunity. Doesn't want to force anything. Doesn't want to make a mistake. Such a strong position so far in this race. A lapse in concentration. A mistake in braking. That could be all you need. So apply the pressure. And force that driver ahead of you into a mistake. Now Spikes comes into the pits. First of the leaders into the pits, comes in from P3. This will allow Levy to go up into P3, into P2. So Big T, we missed it, but Big T also went into the pits just ahead of Spikes. It's Ferrari was the man who decided to stay out, so he's been promoted into the lead of the race. Levy now in P2. An Aston Martin 1-3. The man who did lead the race for the entirety of the race, he's now in P4 with a fresh set of hard tyres. Those will definitely go to the end of the race. It's lap 12 of 26 and they'll get there quite comfortably. Divan in P5, of course having a much cleaner race than he did a qualifying session. Of course the RB getting a little intimate in the castle section with the walls. He was able to get away with it, and then later on in the session, on his final run, finished the job of the RB. And we've got our first safety car. It's a retirement. It's a retirement from Gatosi, and all of a sudden I think we're going to see a very busy pit lane. Does this change anything? Of course, drivers will have gone in to put on a set of hards. Will some of the drivers come in, get rid of those hards, go back onto a new set of mediums? Of course, you just need to use more than one compound. Some drivers won't want to spend too much time on the hard. And with a few safety car laps, might get to the end on a medium. We'll soon find out. It's Ferrari. Remember, he did not pit. He decided to hold on to track position. And now with everybody driving around slowly behind him, he's not going to lose the same amount of time he would have in the pits. You might see it's Ferrari coming out in a surprising position. Of course, Big T has led up until now. We'll find out as he emerges from the pits. Confirmation that it is confirmation. It's Ferrari. Will lead at the restart. He'll be on a set of mediums. Drivers around him will be on a set of hards. That means he will be able to get tyre temperature into the rubber a little earlier than everybody else. Considering he doesn't make any mistakes, he should have a slight advantage on the cars behind him. at least up to lap 10 or 12 of those tyres. Then they will begin to drop off, and if he hasn't been able to open up a substantial gap on those hard runners, they will simply come back at him and swamp him in the final 2 or 3 laps of the race. So his job now in the last segment of the race will be to, well, he'd love to stay in front. If he's not able to fend off the likes of Big T, well, he wants to keep his gap as big as possible to the rest of the field before those mediums could potentially fall off. Of course, his strategy is not unique. Same strategy for Divan, Skull, Rhino, Ronald, Pantry Star, all of those drivers on a brand new set of mediums to go to the end of the race. We've just had our 3rd retirement. Luckily it can't trigger a safety car because we're under a safety car. It's Ferrari. He's going to be in charge of the restart. Of course, Big T, he started from pole position. He's led this race throughout. Now he's going to find himself in unfamiliar territory. He's going to find himself looking at a rear wing of an opponent. How is he going to react to it? Will he stay behind the Aston Martin for a few laps, knowing he does? The tyre ahead has the superior tyre, just needs to stay with its Ferrari, and when those tyres do start to show effects, there's not going to be anything he can do. Or will Big T go for that position immediately? We've seen lots of overtakes into turn 1. On a restart it might be a little bit too aggressive. Lots to play for. Of course, round 1, such an important round in the calendar. You get a good result in round 1, just boosts up the confidence. Gives you that little bit more reason to get in the rig or get behind the controller and do a little bit more practice. Feel like you're in for a shout for the championship. Of course, retiring from round 1, go off into round 2 with 0 points. You're already at a slight disadvantage. So important, this result in round 1. Lap 14 of 26, so we are officially past halfway distance on this circuit. Of course, that last week at SAFRL they ran a 100% race. This week, or rather tomorrow, it'll be back to 50%, so it'll be a very similar format to what you're watching right here, and I believe Tuesday will be the same format as Monday. Some of these drivers will be happy to get that opportunity to perfect the circuit. Other drivers are going to be quite tired of Baku come Tuesday night. Could be worse. Could be 100%. It's 26 laps for the 50% distance. That's what we're doing tonight. 51 laps for the 100% distance race. It's even a little bit more challenging. Just the one penalty so far in the field. Really impressive from everyone. Safety car pulls off into the distance, suggesting it is in this lap. Immediately it's Ferrari, starts to weave around, starts to back the field up. When the safety car gets into that pit entry, then it's Ferrari takes over responsibility of the safety car's job. Nobody is allowed to make any overtakes, and when the leader decides to go, the rest of the field can go. Of course, no overtaking until the start-finish line. It's a unique restart at the circuit because of the length of the straight. Always look at it from the driver in front's perspective, but if you're one of the drivers at the back here, things can feel really messy. feels like you're going so slowly. We have gotten underway. It's free. We'll lead into turn 1. McLaren got really close there to the diffuser of the Aston Martin. Luckily no contact, and immediately Big T goes for it. We said, was he going to be patient or was he going to go for it immediately? He's gone for it immediately. Got really close in turn 1, right on the diffuser of the Aston Martin. Then he went for the inside of turn 2. Now he's going for the inside of turn 3. Doesn't make it stick. And I think that is a note to It's Free. Get your elbows out. I'm not going to make this easy. Free will have the one advantage of having the medium tyres. Hopefully that should give him a little bit of an advantage out of the corners, a little bit of extra traction. But at the moment, on the evidence we saw on the first stint of the race prior to the pit stops, Big T should have the speed advantage. And the aggression he showed into those first 3 corners of the lap showed his intent. Williams have switched around since the last time we saw them. Andre was at the rear of the field. Skull was doing a fantastic job in P5. He's now down in P8. And Andre is now in P6. He's now the lead Williams, but he's slightly out of sync with the other drivers when it comes to tyre life. He's on a set of hard tyres, 11 laps old, because he made an early pit stop. It's Ferrari still out front. All the defense he had to do into turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. He'll be thinking, oh no, here it comes. He gets ready to defend once again. But this time, Big T is the man coming under pressure from Weeze, and Weeze does pull off the overtake. It's an Aston Martin 1-2. And Big T was so aggressive on that opening lap. The mediums have come up to temperature for the 2 Aston Martins. And now It's Free will be a little happier. He'll look in his mirrors and see his teammate fighting with the McLaren. He'll say, you guys carry on with that. Let me get on with this. And what a slide. A dual slide from Weeze and Big T. Somehow they land up not making contact. That could have ended very badly. It's Free out front, then Weeze. I don't think it looked like an Aston Martin 1-2 at any stage of this race. Now all of a sudden looking like a strong possibility. Big T does not want that to happen. He started on pole position. He led this race until the pit window. Safety car came out, caught him by surprise. He didn't think he'd be racing It's Free just a few laps ago. Now he finds 2 Aston Martins out ahead of him and he can't quite keep up. 1.3 seconds down the road from the 2 Aston Martins. And this is a position Big T will not be used to in this race. Of course, he was just making up ground in that first stint. Almost 7/10 a lap at a stage. He's going to have to respond, come back at these Aston Martins. Doesn't want them to get too far off the road. Of course, the teammates can work together, give each other toes. If they don't battle, they can get further and further away. And Big T, he's lost another position. Is there a problem with this car? Let's just try and get a look at this McLaren. Big T, he was so aggressive. It looked like he was going to take the lead. If he wasn't going to take the lead, he was going to do it on the next lap. But now, just falling down the field, I don't see evidence of damage. Didn't see it the first time. Thought I'd check again. And I still don't see any evidence of damage. But Big T at the moment, just falling down the field. He's now down in P4. I thought that was as a result of the medium runners just being a little quicker than him at this stage, but Levy has got past him too. Levy also on a set of hards. So Big T probably be a little bit frustrated. He was at the front. Safety car threw a spanner in the works, right in the middle of the pit window. That means It's Free got the biggest overcut ever. Safety car out again. Who's the retirement this time? It's such a confusing name because it's Haaspoorter, but Haaspoorter is not in a Haas. So I believe that was the latest retirement from... It's now 4 retirements for the race. think we had 5 retirements in the sprint race on Friday night, so it's a tricky circuit. And sometimes you'll see a full field for most of the race, and then all of a sudden one accident happens and there's a domino effect. You get 2 or 3 accidents within a few laps. So every time we do get one of these, the night gets a little longer. Fortunately, we start early on a Sunday night, so we're not going to run too late into the night. It's only 7 PM. Of course, on Friday we tried something different, and it was probably the longest race night I've ever been involved in on the F1 game. That race started at 8 o'clock, and somehow we finished at 11. The combination of a full sprint quali, sprint race, full quali, feature race, it was all a little bit too much. So of course it's free. With that first safety car, was able to jump the field, get himself into P1. He led at the last restart just a few laps ago. Since then, he has been able to drop off Big T, who looked like a big risk there at the start of the restart. Looked like he was going to waste absolutely no time. Since then, something's just gone off with that McLaren. Of course, now he does get some time to take a breather, get his head back where it needs to be. Sometimes you just lose a position, sometimes you just run wide, make a mistake, something like that happens, you lose a position, and then in your frustration you'll end up losing another 2 or 3 because you're just not driving properly, you're focusing on the wrong things, your mind is still angry at the incident and it's not focusing on the apex of the next corner. It's very important. Part of this sort of racing is to not get distracted by all that can happen around you. Keep a cool head, stick to the plan. But we have seen on many occasions one incident leads to a driver falling down the field simply out of frustration. Two Aston Martins out front, will that be something there's actually 3 Aston Martins out front, will you look at that? It's Ferrari in P1, Wees in P2, and I think that's probably Lance Stroll driving the safety car. If the rumours do ever prove to be correct and Max Verstappen goes to Aston Martin, well, maybe that's the demotion Lance Stroll deserves. Well, then now you're going to drive the Aston Martin safety car, son. At least you're still in the F1 circus. Hopefully, you wouldn't go on to crash the safety car. Restart will be Ferrari and Wees, so Ferrari won't be as concerned about turn 1. Of course his teammate will go for the opportunity if he sees it, but you always have that little bit of extra comfort when you know it's your teammate. He's probably not going to come at you as hard. He's going to have in mind if there's contact. You're going to go from P1 and P2, 44 points on the table. What a way to start the season. It's possibly a double retirement. Both Aston Martins will want to win this race. There won't be any sort of team orders because this is round 1. Both of those cars are on 0 points. They will be racing each other for position. And hopefully they don't trip over each other trying to find that position. Levy will be there in 3rd place waiting if it happens. Big T in 4th place, and if he has been able to just calm his thoughts, don't see any damage on that McLaren. I thought that was the cause at the start, apparently not. So he should still have the pace in that car to find whatever he had on that first stint. Obviously just enjoyed the mediums a lot more than he's enjoying the hards at this stage. What a popular stream tonight. Thanks to everyone who's watching. We start once again. It's an Aston Martin from an Aston Martin into turn 1 and out of turn 1. So not too much action there. Levy stays in P3. Big T stays in P4. Nobody wanting to do anything too silly with just 6 laps to go. We saw an example of it this afternoon with Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez crashing into each other with just 2 laps to go. Lots of points were on the table for both those drivers. And they all went to waste with just a few corners to go in the race. Of course, you'll be fighting for position, but at the same time, you'll be trying to think about what you're doing. You want to race fast, you want to race aggressively, but most importantly, you want to race intelligently. This is Skull. It's a puff of smoke from his teammate up the road. Big lockup from Andre. A little bit of a lock-up into Castle Corner. That's the last place you want your wheels to lock. That's where you need the front of the car to be as reactive as possible. Well, following his teammate, good points on the table for Williams if things were to finish as they are right now. Spike's in P5. He's had a solid race. He was up in P3 at a stage. Levy in P4. Hasn't quite been able to crack the podium in this race just yet. Of course, he was on the podium briefly, but now Big T has gotten past him. Big T, 1.5 seconds away from the Aston Martins. Whatever he had in the tank in the first stint, can he replicate it? DRS is enabled as we see an Alpine and a McLaren going side by side down the straight. There is contact into turn 1. Didn't see any carbon fiber flying about. There was definitely some sort of contact. Just looked like the McLaren and the Alpine leaning on each other. No damage to either car. 3-second time penalty for the second Williams in the field. And that'll be frustrating. Of course, we've had a recent safety car. It's going to be a while until these gaps are able to open up. And that 3 seconds could throw him down the field potentially. And as we speak of one Williams having bad luck, another Williams having all the bad luck. Luckily, it's not a retirement. He fell down the field so quickly. I thought that's what it was. But just damage to the front wing. Andre at the rear of the field. Surely he'll come in, put on a set of soft tyres. Maybe try steal the fastest lap. Of course, he won't get that bonus point from P15, but he can potentially steal that bonus point from somebody else getting it. 1 point could be the important factor at the end of the season. It's going to be a long one, 14 rounds. This is just the first step, and if Aston Martin are able to come home in this order, what a first step it will be. The Williams, they were looking strong. Death Queen not going to be too happy about that. The two Williams were looking very strong, running line astern. Then Skull got a penalty as he lost the position, so I wonder if he just ran wide, losing that position, and then got the penalty simultaneously. And then just a few corners later, the lead Williams of Andre finding a disaster of its own. We're down in P7 and 15. A little bit of commentator's curse, saying what a step it would be. Get both cars in the points for the opening round. At the moment they still have one of those cars in the points, but unfortunately for them that car does have a penalty and could still be thrown out of the points, finishing as low as P12 if the race were to end now. Top Gun at the rear of the field. He's put on a set of soft tyres, as has Andre. Those will be the guys gunning for fastest lap. Obviously, like I said, not going to get that point for fastest lap because you're outside the top 10. But what it does do As if one of your potential championship rivals are up there in the points, it could steal a potential point from them and come down to round 14. That point might be all important. Wee's out front. He's actually swapped positions with its Free, so the Aston Martins have traded places, and Wee's looks like he's got the pace in the latter stages. He's opened up the gap to 8/10 of a second, and if he opens it up beyond a second, I think it's Free's going to have a difficult time. Big T on the verge of DRS, 1.2 seconds. He'd be looking for that extra 2/10. Where can I find that extra 2/10? Wants to get within DRS of these two Aston Martins so he can come back into this race, a race that he will feel was his. Of course, he led the race. He actually started from pole, then he led the race. He opened up the gap beyond 7 seconds. Went into the pit window. He was the first of the quick drivers to pit. It's Free decided to stay out, hold on to track position, and on that very lap he held track position. Safety car came out, and it's Free came out in the lead of the race. Wee's managed to get his way up into P2, and all of a sudden we find ourselves with two Aston Martins in the top two. Big T, the man who feels he should have probably been out front, is doing everything he can, but he can't stay with those Aston Martins. The gap was 1.2 seconds. He was so close to DRS. Now it's 1.6. So the Aston Martins working with each other to make sure Big T doesn't come back into this race. Gap between them, 6/10 of a second. I wonder if we will see a battle between the two. Wee's from It's Free. The car at the rear should have the advantage, should have the DRS. He is going to pull off the move. Where is he going to pull it off? Needs to make sure it's safe. Imagine taking out your teammate in a 1-2 situation. Well, think of Spain. Of course, Spain 2016. Max Verstappen made his debut for Red Bull. Went on to win the race. Was P1 in the race, P1 and 2 in the race, as well as P1 and 2 in the championship. Decided to take each other out in the very early stages. That's the last thing you want to see from the leading teammates. P1 and 2 at the moment more than enough to stay ahead of the McLaren, but are they going to come at each other or simply stay in this order? A little further back, Spikes, he's had a real solid race, stayed out of the penalties column, as have most of the drivers, surprisingly. Levy P5, Mr. Rem P6. Haven't seen much of the second Ferrari, but he's going to get a good result out of this anyway. Ronald in P7, also relatively quiet race, but doing what he needs to do. Pretty solid result. Then we got Divan P8, Pantry Star P9. He'd probably like to be a little higher up the order. He's a much quicker driver than that. Chums P10, Big Rhino in 11, then Skull. Williams, that was having such a solid race. Could have been anything, could have been a lapse of concentration. But he's now down in P12, Harsh Cartoon 13, Top Gun 14, and Andre. It's now the car at the rear of the field. Both Williams have fallen from the top 10 positions. We're looking at a strong result not so long ago. Hopefully that will be a lesson to the Aston Martin team. Don't do anything too silly. It's Free, got really close. Now I'm wondering, does he want to make the overtake? Is he going to make the overtake? Didn't seem like he was getting too aggressive into turn 1, just tucked in behind his teammate. He's going to have DRS again. There it is. Looking at the rear wing, you can see big slit that opens up. That should give the driver behind an advantage. At the moment, doesn't appear to be using that advantage. Wonder if he's just coasting behind his teammate. And if we do see a move, it'll be on this final lap. Gap now between Wees and its Free, 7/10 of a second. If its Free's going to do anything crazy into turn 1 on the final lap, he's going to have to be a lot closer. Wants to be at least half a second behind his teammate. When he gets on that straight, anything over 5 or 6/10 is simply not going to be enough at turn 1. Of course, Piastri proved you could do it with a 6/10 gap. That's quite a move. If you're sure you can replicate that sort of driving, go ahead. But if you're not able to replicate that sort of driving, things will end in tears. Wees from its Ferrari, then the man in P3 is Big T, and he's actually closing up on the Aston Martins now. Looked like he was going backwards not so long ago, and I wonder if those mediums are just starting to feel it. We saw those first medium runners, the guys that started on mediums, they pit around about lap 12. These drivers have done 13 laps on those mediums, so these tyres will be feeling not so great. Big T, he's got a set of hards, will have the advantage, but is he going to run out of tarmac? Of course, he's got two Aston Martins in front of him. They can work together versus the one McLaren. Ferrari led the race for quite a while. Then his teammate took over the lead of the race. Those cars have been running line astern ever since. Looking at it 1-2 to start the season. But the McLaren is having nothing of it. The McLaren wants that P2. It's not going to let it go without a fight. Of course, very, very close behind here. He's still going to have the assistance of that back straight, the assistance of the slipstream. It's all going to depend on how much battery he's got saved up. Can't rely too much on DRS on this final lap. From the activation point to the start finish line, there's not that much time. Gonna have to rely on the slipstream, on the power of your battery, and you better hope you've saved up some of that battery if you need to defend. We'll soon find out who's going to be the winner of this race. It looks like Wees is pretty comfortable at the moment, but P2 is definitely not comfortable. Big T's picked up a penalty. Big T has picked up a penalty, and I think that'll be confirmation of an Aston Martin 1-2. They're going to go over the line almost side by side. We don't get a good camera angle of it, but what a start to the season for Aston Martin. And the man I think everyone thought was going to win this race, well, he's lucky to hold on to his podium, because Spikes finished 0.08 of a second behind that final podium sitter. So he just had just enough advantage to cancel out that penalty. Sometimes drivers just get off the throttle going over the line. Well, if he had gotten off the throttle a little earlier, he might have found himself off the podium. Ronald saying points in the comment section. That they are. Points for 7th place in round 1. Ooh, and that, well, I hope that Williams was over the line, but we've just seen a Williams crash into the wall on the start finish line. I'm not sure if that car was over the line, and if it wasn't, it doesn't really matter. I suppose he wasn't in the points. I'm going to have to get through these results pretty quickly because there's a lot of names. Wees wins the race from his teammate. Brilliant start for Aston Martin here in Season 9 of SKR. Then we've got the McLaren of Big T. Looked so strong. Started in pole, led the race. Then the safety car messed with his race. Spikes P4, strong performance. Levy P5. Mr. M P6. Ronald, formerly known as Boinkies, he finishes in P7. Solid race from him. Started P16, so he'll be happy with that. Then we have Pantry Star, the driver of no name, in P8. Divan P9. And Harsh Cartoon making up the top 10. Outside the top 10, we've got Rhino P11, Shums P12, Andre, bad luck for the Williams team, in P13, Top Gun 14, and Skull finishing the race in P15. Not so long ago, those Williams both looked like they would finish in the points. We had retirements from 4 drivers: Haas, Puerta, should I say, Gary, Gotzi, and Vortex. Well, folks, that was Season 9, Round 1 SKR. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Of course, we're just going to have a look at our cool down room, see if anybody has decided to join after the race, and have a chat about Round 1 and how it went. Nobody appears to be in the cool down room right now, but we'll just give it a few minutes, see if anybody does decide to join. Of course, such an important round. I emphasize it so many times because it could mean so much to your season. Just gives you that little bit extra motivation when you know your round 1 was fantastic and you're in the championship already. Of course, on this channel, tomorrow night, we're going to be back, not at 6 p.m, a little bit later. We're going to be back at 8 p.m. That's going to be for SAFRL, and we will also be in, I think I'm in the wrong route, and for SAFRL, and we will be doing this very same circuit. There we go, that's better. I was in the cool down room instead of the comms box. Will you look at that? So just back to what I was saying, of course, tomorrow night we're going to be SAFRL at 8 p.m. at this very circuit. And then on Tuesday night we're doing it all over again, this time for League v League at this very circuit, also at 8 p.m. So if you enjoyed this layout, better get used to it. I think it's probably the only time I've ever commentated on a track 3 days in a row. Looking forward to it. So we've got the 2 Aston Martin drivers in the cool down room. We're about to bring them into the comms box. Let's just make sure they are not muted on my side. There we go, that should be better. Let's mute the game so you guys can hear them. And I'm going to bring It's Free and Wheeze into the comms box. And of course tonight, guys, there's a very slight delay on the stream. I think it's only 5 or 10 seconds. So if you guys have any questions for the drivers, let me know. I'll pass that on to them. And well, you guys here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear you?
Yeah.
Who am I going to start with? I'll start with the man in P2, Faree.
Yeah.
That safety car couldn't have worked out better.
No, I think it came out at the right time. Me and Reese were still discussing which lap to box because he needed to do another stop as well. And then, yeah, couldn't be more perfect on the lap that it came out.
At the, I think it was it the first? I think it was the first. At the first safety car restart, you obviously led the race, and the McLaren Big T showed a lot of intent there into turn 1, 2, and 3. In fact, thought he was going to absolutely go for it, and then he just dropped back for a little bit. I thought the McLaren got damage, but how did you feel those 3 turns? You thought, well, if it's going to be this till the end of the race, I'm in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, I didn't expect him at turn 2 because I saw he tried on turn 1, but I know like the tires are still cold, so you don't want to lunge something that like it's to the unknown. You don't know what the tires is going to do. And then in T2 he was there, and I'm like, oh yeta. I was so surprised. And then yeah, from there on when he fell back, tires got up to temp, and then could just control it from there.
That was Faree. We go to his teammate now, who actually went on to win the race after he probably didn't think that was going to be possible after the early pit stop. What was the early pit stop about? Did you have damage, or was that
Yeah.
strategic?
Nah, lap 1 damage. Just my tires weren't working at all. Those hards felt horrible, so I can imagine what everyone else was feeling on that restart.
And then another question I wanted to ask you guys, was there any sort of agreement between the two at the end there? We're going to hold line astern. We're going to make sure we get a 1-2, or was there still racing at the end there? Or did you guys decide 4 or 5 laps ago we're not going to do that?
No, I mean, obviously I just keep it clean, papaya rules and all that nonsense. And yeah, just keep it clean. I mean, if he wins, it doesn't really bother me, I guess. Then it's a win for him.
I think
But
what also makes it more difficult is if someone is so close behind, so you can't like fight for it.
I suppose
Where
if you guys were in a battle by yourselves, it probably would have been a bit different. But if you tripped over yourselves, there was a lot of cars to steal your
yeah,
positions.
exactly, and
yeah,
if
exactly.
especially if you start fighting for position into the turns, you get slower exits. The guys behind starts to close up. So I think if the second safety car didn't come out, because we were already pulling 2 seconds plus. So I think if we kept on doing that, then maybe the last 3-4 laps we would have just fought for it.
Had a bit of a go.
But yeah, our plan to that was like swapping positions, just keep on pulling each other along, making the gap bigger.
That was P1 and P2 in this race. We're missing Big T. So I want to thank everybody that watched. Of course, I'm just going to end the stream. If you guys want to stay here for a minute, you can. Just going to end the stream. Thank you to everybody who watched. We've got 70 views this evening, so thank you very much. Of course, we're going to be back tomorrow night, SAFRL, this exact circuit at 8 p.m. And then League v League on Tuesday. We're back here again. At least I don't need to make a lot of thumbnails. So thank you, everybody, and cheers. And ended. There we go. That was